Cars aren't just transportation. Let's face it, they're also image and fashion statements. Since hulking SUVs aren't as cool these days, smaller crossovers are seeing more buyers. Infiniti's EX35 sure hit the market at the right time. EX35 does have a crossover vibe about it, and if you're cross shopping, you'd probably be looking at, say, a BMW X3 or maybe an Acura RDX. I've gotta say, though, it feels more like a station wagon or hatchback version of Infiniti's own G35 sedan. And there's nothing wrong with that. It rides on the same chassis as the Jeep, and though the good-looking EX here is around 5 inches longer and taller, it doesn't look much larger. Choose between rear and all-wheel drive. The oomph comes from a 297-horse V6. That's connected to a 5-speed automatic transmission with manual shift mode. EX35 is pretty darn quick. With 0 to 60 times at around 6.5 seconds, it will beat the RDX and X3 to the grocery store, though that's not a responsible thing to do. Overall, the EX is quiet with a polished ride quality that never feels harsh. Still, with tenacious grip, it's fun to toss into a corner too. Rounding out the great driving dynamics are terrific anti-lock brakes. All this driving fun is done in a nicely trimmed space. The heated leather seats are very comfortable. All the popular luxury stuff is here, right down to the Infiniti clock that shows my boss I really was working at 3 o'clock. EX is iPod friendly, but it's just as easy to plug in a flash memory card full of music. The user interface, using both buttons and touch, is easy to use. I didn't even consult the manual to pair my Bluetooth phone. Thinking of pressing the EX into everyday family use? Keep this in mind, it's not overly large back here. There's just enough knee and foot room for an average-sized guy like myself. Also, there's a drive shaft tunnel that the center passenger has to deal with. Other gripes, no separate climate control back here. Brightly lighted gauges can fool a driver into thinking headlights are on at night. And then there's fuel economy. My average is 18 miles to the gallon using specified premium. People buy these kinds of vehicles because they're practical, and certainly the EX is more useful than the G sedan. The stylish forward rake of the rear glass holds the cargo area to 5 packs, small for a crossover. The rear seats don't just split and fold. Motorized seat backs can be operated from the trunk or up front. Summing up, the EX is refined, practical, and a hoot to drive. With its smaller rear dimensions, it seems designed for single people or couples with no kids. Is it a crossover? A wagon? A hatchback? Does it really matter? Those not hung up on categories will enjoy the Infiniti EX35 on its own terms. There's some tech stuff available on this car that's not on my $41,000 tester. A lane departure system will warn a driver if they do stuff like this. Remember, drowsy driving is nearly as bad as drunk driving. Something called a round view monitor would enhance this rear-mounted camera with 3 more for a 360-degree view that looks like it's taken from a helicopter hovering right above the car. No chopper is used, though. It would be problematic in parking garages. For those who like the G35 sedan or coupe, but need something more useful, the EX does a commendable job of keeping that fun-to-drive feeling. That's my opinion on the Infiniti EX35. If you want a longer written review, go to the website www.nwcn.com/autos. And if you have a question about this or any other car, please feel free to write. There's a link to my email there. That's Drive. I'm Tom Voelk.